Hello lovelies, I'm Christina and today I am giving you my review of Strange Weather by Joe Hill. Strange Weather is a collection of 4 short novels. This edition right here is published by Harper Lux and is 706 pages long. I listened to Strange Weather on Audible and it was 14 hours and 35 minutes long. The first story is Snapshots. This one is narrated by Will Wheaton and it's the story of Michael. Michael discovers one of his neighbors in his driveway, an old woman who used to babysit him when he was a kid and also a very close friend to the family. She's barefoot and seems completely lost. Michael then follows this woman home and he's afraid that she might have a case of Alzheimer's. Then she starts talking to him about a man with a Polaroid camera and she's constantly warning him about not letting him take his picture. And then later on in the story, he meets this man and he has an ability to take away memories with his camera. This one was one of my favorites, and from the reviews I've seen around, it's really a love or hate thing. A lot of people said that this one was their least favorite, and I don't know why that is. I really enjoyed Snapshots. I think this reminded me very much of classic Stephen King short stories. It dragged on a bit and could have been ended a bit sooner, not having to explain so much after the ending. Other than that, I just really enjoyed the characters and the flow of the story, so that might actually be one of my favorites of this collection. And again, I mentioned this after listening to, what was it? Oh, Lock-In by John Scalzi. But Will Wheaton? First off, he's an amazing narrator, love his voice, but he sounds so much like George Clooney. I have no idea how that happens. I never get that connection with it when I watch him on TV or in TV shows, but listening to him on audiobooks, there's something weird going on there. He just turns into Clooney immediately. The next in the collection is Loaded. This one is narrated by Stephen Lang. This is very political story. It's about a mall security guard and how he stops a mass shooting and becomes this big hero and a very kind of frontal figure for the pro-guns in the gun debate. And after a while, his story just kind of unravels and we get to see his real self and how unstable he is and how his insanity is slowly just surfacing, and it is very clearly where Joe Hill stands on the gun debate. I think this was really well executed. It raises some really interesting questions and the ending was really, it made an impact and it was uncomfortably good, if I can call it that. It was just a really good story. In the beginning of the story, we get introduced to a young girl and her big brother who are both of color, and by accident her brother is shot by a policeman. I had some problems throughout this story just knowing how these two stories would connect in a way, but they did and it was done nicely. It just had me a bit confused for a while. But other than that, I think Loaded was a very interesting, very political and well executed story. Next up we have Loft. This one is narrated by Dennis Boutsikaris. This one is very much sci-fi. It's about a young man who is going to jump in a parachute for the first time in the memory of a close friend. He then somehow ends up on this impossible solid cloud that is kind of working with his thoughts. Things are happening on this cloud that are very much connected to everything he's thinking and everything he's been through in his life. So it's very much an internal story as well as it is a science fiction story about what happens around him. I thought the science fiction, the imagination around it was really interesting. The one thing that really bugged me throughout this story was that it was very clearly that throughout the recording of this particular story, the narrator either had a cold somewhere or something. His voice did change from chapter to chapter, and then suddenly he sounded like a different guy for a while. Could be just the settings they used when they recorded. I don't know what it was, but it just threw me off a bit, and I found it to be a bit irritating, to be honest. Other than that, I thought it was very typical Joe Hill. Very dark, much inner monologue, the struggles and inner conflicts that has been in his life surfaces through the experience of this cloud, and it was very interesting to see. And also just the way everything unraveled and how it came together in the end, I thought was quite interesting. Now the last one is Rain. This one is narrated by Kate Mulgrew. She is the same woman who narrated Nosferatu and The Fireman, both of which I really liked. Until I heard the afterwards, I wasn't aware that Rain was supposed to be sort of a parody on his writing in The Fireman. It is this apocalyptic story where it suddenly starts to rain crystals that look like needles. If anyone is outside, they will die because it pierces their skin and they will just fall over and pretty much bleed to death. I thought the story was very well done, even though it's supposed to be a parody. I could see the elements of that when I knew it. I could go back and like, oh, okay, I get it. Because there were a few moments throughout that story where I was like, huh, what is going on here? I did enjoy the fact that the main character was a lesbian woman. It is a story of her and the day that her girlfriend was supposed to move in with her, and then the rain came. The girlfriend and her mother gets caught out in this rain and dies. So Honeysuckle, who is the main character here, she then decides she's gonna walk to the town that her girlfriend's father lives, just to tell him that his family is dead. And it's a long walk. I don't remember exactly what city she went from and to, but she engulfs on this walk that takes her about a day or two. I don't remember quite how long it was. And it's the story of everything that she comes across and everything that's happening around in the neighborhood that she lived as well. You have a religious cult, stigma around LGBTQ, sexual harassment, and very political views around sexuality and sexual preferences. For it being a parody, I thought that it touched on some really good topics and it was very well executed. I thought the ending was a bit like, what? But then again, it could be the parody thing going on here, that it was supposed to be like that, and I just couldn't get behind that one. So Rain was probably my least favorite of the four, but I still did enjoy it. So I would say that overall, I think that Strange Weather is a pretty solid short story collection or novella collection. And if you like the early work of Stephen King and his short stories, or the collection of novellas that he has, I think that you're probably gonna enjoy this one just as much. I ended up giving the book 4 stars, and I would absolutely recommend it. Tell me in the comments down below if you've read this book or you have any thoughts around it. Do you have any Joe Hill favorites? I'm looking into trying to see if there's anyone that I've missed that I really need to get to. So let me know if you have any. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I will see you in my next video soon. Goodbye!